Thanks for inviting me along tonight, guys. This last, probably 8 months has been a bit crazy. I've been 47 years keeping birds of all sorts, budgies all the way through, canaries, British, lorries, toucans, macaws, you name it, I've kept it and bred it. This year, I've been after the pigeon boys for 16 years to give me a bird that died with the symptoms of young bird sickness. 16 years. Last summer I got one. I met the guy in Dundee, gave me the dead bird, told me the symptoms, classic young bird sickness, just quite a number of symptoms, throwing up, retaining water, not eating properly, skittery. Sent it down to the lab, got a remedy made up. They got it the next day, they got it out that day, we got it back the following day, got it over the guy's birds. He had 15 that were down with the symptoms, and he had other birds that weren't quite right, but they're all in the same place. Turned them around within a day, back to normal again. Now, one swallow doesn't make a summer. We couldn't just sell that because it done the job on one. So I put word out to all the pigeon people and I say, look, if you've got anybody that's got young bird sickness, tell them to give me a call, strictest of confidence. I'll send you a remedy out free of charge. And over the following couple of weeks, the phone went off the hook and I had loads of people phone me up. There was only 7 people admitted to having young bird sickness. Sent the remedy out to them. They all got back to me within the week and says, wow, what a difference. Couldn't believe how the birds quickly turned around. So we were pleased that we were seeing results not just with one, but with the same symptoms. So it was a case of a few of the guys that had phoned up, we weren't selling it, but they wanted it as a preventative. So we ended up, for the cost of the postage, we posted stuff out, and there's 3 or 4 people phoned back and says, look, I'll be honest with you, we had young bird sickness, it's done the job, over the moon, So if I'd had this 16 years ago, we could have saved thousands and thousands of birds who died with the symptoms of young bird sickness. Now, my focus on everything I do is taking stress off the birds, health-wise, environment-wise, nutrition-wise. The biggest thing that kills our birds is stress. Now, all these young birds with the pigeons come down under stress and everything multiplies. I'm sure you've all heard me tell the story about the pigeon in the microbiology class in college. About testing, what bacteria is in the mouth, and 10 minutes later testing again and finding out that within 10 minutes of under stress, everything multiplied in this bird. And what you see the symptoms of is what's multiplying the quickest and usually what kills your bird. So it was interesting. There was a lot of guys who were taking their birds to the shows, and to be honest, I felt a bit like a drug dealer because they all took the birds to the show, and 3 or 4 days later, all the birds that took the show were coming down with young bird sickness. This is show racing pigeons. And so I was getting phone calls. Colin, you went to such and such and you gave them this remedy. I went to the same show, I've got it. So I was meeting people halfway from their homes and car parks and putting a little bottle over there. You go, there's 10 quid, thanks very much, this is how you use it. And everybody came back and says, wow, can't believe the difference in the birds. But just recently there, we've had 1 or 2 people on Facebook who's probably seen it. Young birds, Flesland's disease and budgies. Now, the post came up, and I'm sure the gentleman won't mind me using his name, but Ron Payne put a post up. I've got issues with these birds, they're scrawny, they go purple, after a few days, after a few weeks, they just go backwards and you lose them. And then he put a post up, I sent him down BM321, which was taken from a chick of mine 16 years ago. I'd used this remedy over the birds, and within 2 days, instead of being purple and scrawny and you couldn't keep the ring on them, they were now pink and started to get down and started to move forward, But the interesting thing was somebody had put a post up, when I've had birds like that, I use BM307, which is going light, which is Coxie Megaback. So just to put you in the picture, I've been the poultry specialist for this company for 20 years. And over the years, when I first started with them, we had 5 remedies for caged birds. And by working with people with different symptoms and that, we've managed to build it up to, I think it's BM342 we're up to. So from 305 to 342, that's quite a few remedies. But way back, I had a beautiful spangled violet opaline hen And it was going light. It was the classic sitting in the dish, eating and eating and eating and getting thinner and thinner and thinner. And as soon as you filled it with sea dishes, she was the first down. So what I did was I phoned up and I says, look, I've got this bird, it's going light, can we get a remedy made up? So I sent the bird down, it was sent down live. If you don't get a bird to a lab and get tested within that first hour of death, chances of finding out what killed it is zil, because it's dead, you know. So all these people send birds that are 2 or 3 days old to vets to test, you're wasting your time, because what's killed the bird is dead. They'll find 1 or 2 bits and pieces, but not probably what killed the bird. So this bird was sent down, and the 2 main things they found in it was coxy and megaback. There was other bits and pieces, but that was the 2 main things, was coxy and megaback. So I got a remedy back up within 2 days, and I put it over all the birds. And I never had another issue with that for a good 5 months. And then all of a sudden there was a couple of birds going light. And then I put the remedy over again, and it turned around. Now what we do know is that homeopathic remedies act different on every single animal bird. You're getting a minimum of 3 months cover of the immune system switched on to 6 months. You know, I've seen a brother and sister dogs, and the dog on stress reducer has been 3 months just over, but the bitch on the same stress reducer was 5.5 months. So the effect, in fact, there was a man sitting here that had a dog that was on stress reducer.
Why are you folks there?
That's right, Dawson. Your wife wouldn't take it out because it used to bounce, and yet you put the stress reducer on it, calmed it right down. You know, just remembering that you're sitting there. But you know, everyone's different, but you're getting a minimum of 3 months cover. Now, in the same year, I had quite a few of my nest boxes had Fleischmann's disease. So what I did was, I'm not going to send a live chick down to the lab, but the beauty of homeopathy is that if you have a bird that could be a few days old or 2 weeks old you've had in the fridge, we can still make a remedy out of it, because whatever was in that body, when we take the samples to make the remedy, is in the remedy. So this is where I go back to the young bird sickness. Everything that was in that bird is switched on, and the birds get it as a preventative or to turn them around. Excuse me. So I sent the chick down. Now I had probably about 14 cages with chicks, and I'd probably say a good 8 of them had Fleischmann's in them. You know, they were getting scrawny and I was losing birds. So when I sent that chick down and got it back 2 days later, I made the remedy up. I put it over the birds. I put it in the drinking water for 5 days. I used the water that it was in to put into the egg food, and I also put a drop into each chick's mouth. Now from that day, I never lost another bird. But the interesting thing was, with Graham Payne saying that, you know, these birds are turning with a 3-2-1, and someone else saying, oh, we used 307, and it did the same thing, it had the same effect on the chicks, it turned them around. Now, we know for a fact that in the 307, it was coxy megaback. But the fact that that worked on these chicks, to me, it's coxy is the main thing. It might not be so much megaback, but it's coxy. And so I'm thinking, wow, we now know that Fleischmann's disease is coxy. And so you look at the livestock industry, whether it's birds or cattle or sheep or anything, the biggest cost to the industry is coxy. You know, over the whole world, coxy kills more animals than anything else. So why should our birds be different? And then I started asking some of the canary boys, you know, and some of the issues they've had over the years that I've dealt with them. And they've got black spot in canaries. You know, chicks die for no reason at all. Speaking to them and listening to it, I would say 9 out of 10 times that's coxy. But we haven't put 2 and 2 together. We're not an industry. The poultry industry that I've been in for 25 years now, you know, 3 years in college, right, they've spent billions over the years researching what works, what doesn't work, what causes this, what causes that. Because if they don't get it right, you don't make profit and you're not in business. So they've researched so much because it's an industry. But because we're birds, nobody says, right, let's put £100,000 into research for this or that and next. We just don't do it, you know. And just because of the young bird sickness remedy, I've always dealt with pigeon guys over the years, but just recently I've dealt with so many more pigeon guys, and what they've said to me is, over the years, They'll get a sample. When the birds go unwell, they'll get a sample, they'll split it in two, and they'll send it to 2 different vets for analysis. Not one person that I've spoken to has come back and says, you know, from that vet and that vet, they both said the same thing. They've all come back with something different. It's their interpretation on what's what. Quite often they don't get an exact thing, but what they do get is, there's £50, there's £80, there's £100, that'll do the job for you. And what they're doing is they're putting an antibiotic that will kill everything. You know, the bird will pick up, and then it will crash again once it comes off it, and then they end up killing it, you know. You can't do that. You've got to find out what's causing the issues. Now, we all know that when a bird's under stress, everything multiplies, it's in it, and all our own individual places have their own issues in the birds. And when you buy a bird in from somewhere else, if that's got something different, the bird's under stress, it's going to pass what it's got that they don't onto it. And this is why you get birds going down, because you bring someone in. My advice to anybody buying birds is you've got 2 choices. You bring a bird in, keep it isolated for 2 or 3 months in your own place, feeding regime, get it sorted and that, keep the stress off it, you know, don't put it in with your own birds, let it get acclimatised, or buy it in its breeding condition, bring it in, put it in a cage, pair it straight up. Then you're not going to get it stressed out. Because you moving a bird from one cage in a shed or a flight and putting it into another for breeding is the exact same as you driving 200 miles with a bird and putting it in for breeding. The bird comes in and it's like, oh, there's a hen, or oh, there's a cock, you know, time to breed. It doesn't think about getting stressed out, it's just interested in breeding. Whereas if you bring a bird in, keep it for a couple of days and then throw it in a flight or throw it in a cage somewhere else, you've got the stress of the pecking order and all the rest that is multiplying everything in that bird, which is spreading around to all the other birds. And they're under stress as well, because it's like, who's this new person that's come in here, you know, and where are they in the pecking order? So it's the stress that's causing the issues. But the crazy thing is that looking at the picture of all these birds, why wouldn't one bird be different from the other when it comes to coxswain? You know, they all have coxswain. It's in the environment, and it's continually going the cycle. And under stress, what multiplies the quickest in your birds is coxswain. The coxswain thinks, this host is under stress, I need to multiply to get eggs out of this before this host dies, and into another host. And that's just the life cycle of coxswain. Now, you can break the cycle, but if you're bringing feed in, the chances are you're going to bring coxswain in. Because rats, mice, all these things have coxswain. They're running about through these mills and that, you know, and amongst seed and everything. So the chances of being coxswain in that, you can't screen coxswain out, you know, and you know they might clean it up, but coxswain will still be around. You know, if you're bringing stuff into your shed, you're going to bring coxswain in. So what I did was probably about a year past November, I've got the who's who of bird keepers use my stuff and everybody else in between. And so I started asking people who were putting their orders in for their breeding season, how have you got on using the stuff for the last couple of years, you know, and what's your lighting program, what's your breeding program, what's your feeding program? And there was 15 guys with a good variety of birds, stood out a mile. From 8 to 15 years, they'd virtually lost no birds. They'd had fantastic breeding seasons, and they were breeding with birds 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old for fun. And what I discovered was that none of them were using supplements. They were feeding whole fresh foods, and they were basically giving the birds 4 seasons. They were bringing them in and out of cycle. You know, some of them bred early, some of them bred to nature, but they were bringing them in and out of cycle. They were leaning the birds off. They weren't starving them, but they were reducing the body weight as what would happen to birds in the wild. And so when you saw this and the results, they had brilliant breeding results year on year on year. And it's like, wow, can't believe it. They were using some of the products. They weren't using a couple of products which I now don't sell because I don't think you need them, but they were using homeopathic remedies. So what I did was I made up last year a little program called the 4 Seasons program that these guys were following. Now, they didn't all use all 3 remedies, but some of them did use all 3 remedies. And what they were doing is they were switching the immune system on for coxswain. Stress reducer was the second one, and wormworm. And by doing that, every 3 months, it's very easy to do, I'll just explain it. There's 10 mils for single remedies, we have triple remedies for the pigeon guys with ailments, but for the vast majority of single remedies, 10 mils, you're looking at £9, okay? Now that'll last you, to keep the immune system on for whatever condition, 15 months. Or if you only use it a couple of times a year, that's good for 2 years for £9. Now if you save one bird, do you think that's paid for itself? One bird? So what you do is, you knock the bottle 30 times on the day of use, okay? Right? Now I'm going to put it to Dave's ear, he's going to hear it fizzing.
Oh, I know it fizzes. I'm dead for that.
Right? We could hear it coming out that side. So, you put it to your ear, you hear it fizzing away. That's you activating homeopathy. Now, we go on the farms, and quite often the farmers are sceptical. It's like, activating homeopathy, do you have to go around the trees naked at moonlight at the same night, you know? No, you don't have to, but if you want to, that's up to yourselves. But what you do is, once you've knocked the bottle 30 times, take a syringe, draw up 2 mils. It's a 2.5 mil syringe. Draw up 2 mils and put it into a bottle. Now just say, for example, this is a litre, 2 mils per litre. Put the 2 mils into that, fill it up to a litre. Now, this is a Tropicana bottle. There is other manufacturers, different makes available. But as long as you get a 1 litre bottle, or it could be a 2 litre bottle, you fill up to half, put 2 mils in, leave it for 15 minutes, half an hour at the most. And then, if you use 2 or 3 litres a day, make that into 2 or 3 litres. Just for an example, we'll go into a farm, say, and we'll do viral pneumonia in cattle. Now, it's 10 mils per head in the drinking water, so we'll split it, say for example, 200 head of cattle, 4 troughs, we'll put it into 4 different troughs. As these calves and cows are drinking it, they're getting it into their system, and as the water's going in, it's multiplying. The remedy's multiplying at full strength for 6-7 days. So over a 5-day period, they're all going to get it, and after 6-7 days, it dissipates. So what we're doing with this is the same as what we do in the troughs with the water going in. So what you do is you make the litre up, pour that litre into 2 litres, do all your drinkers, or if you need 4 litres, make it up into 4 litres, it'll be multiplying. Do all your drinkers, do your baths as well as you want, if you want, leave some water in that big container. Top that back up again to what you need for tomorrow. It's multiplying at full strength there, and it's multiplying at full strength in your baths and your drinkers as they're taking it. Now, if you've got a bird that's got the symptoms, see if you've got a bird that's going light, especially budgies, they don't drink much, and other birds don't drink much when they're unwell. Try and get a bit of the solution over the bird's throat. If you've got a crop needle, great. Try and get some in that. What you also want to do as well, especially for feeding chicks, doesn't affect chicks, not like some antibiotics you can't do when you've got chicks. This will switch the immune system on for chicks and everything. So use the water that's got the remedy in to make up your egg food or your soft food, so you moisten it. So as the parents are feeding them, it's getting into the system as well. It has to go into this system. So what you do is you keep on doing that every day for 5 days. Now all you've done is take 2 mils out, put that in the fridge or somewhere cold, and that'll keep for 2 years, no problem. No problem at all. But what you can do, for example, when you're making this 1 litre up and you're expanding it up into 4, 5, 10, 15 litres, you can always leave some of that, top that up, and put it in the fridge as a reserve. So if anything ever happened to your container, you've got 1 litre that, if you did nothing with that, that'll multiply at full strength for 6-7 days. So that's a little reserve you have. Does that make sense? You're multiplying it up, and so it's very economical. So worst case scenario, 307, Coxie Megabac. You're turning the bird's immune system on. If you do it every 3 months, that 2 mils, exact same way, very economical. And I say I'm not allowed to make medical claims, but I've sold this over the last 16 years, and I've had lots of happy customers. Lots of happy customers. But the interesting thing is that there's a chap I've known for 5 years, and he phoned me up and says, Colin, I've just come back for 2 weeks holidays and my birds are all scouring. Whoever's looked after them hasn't, done a good job. Obviously the bird's been stressed out for whatever reason, the feeding regime or whatever's not been right. And all his birds were scouring. So I went out with a homeopathic remedy we have, which is a combined scour-enteritis. And we put that over the birds, we put some over the birds' throats, but the next day he phoned up and says, Colin, what a difference. Can't believe it. A couple of days later he phoned me up and says, Colin, I've got 1 or 2 birds that are eating and eating and eating. It wasn't sclerotitis, it was cocci. You know, under stress, these birds are obviously the cocci had multiplied as well, and so these birds were classic going light. So I went up and says, right, this is how you use it. 2 mils per litre in drinking water. You know, I do it every 3 months and whatnot. Now he bought a 25 ml bottle off me, and he used it, and he phoned me back a couple of days after putting over the throat. We put over the throats of the birds. A couple of days later, he says, Colin, what difference? Can't believe the difference in these birds. And 10 months later, he phoned me up, and he says, Colin, I'm needing more 307. I said, have you spilled it? No. I've been using it 1 mil every day. He said, I only use 2 litres a day, but what I do on a Monday is I top it up every day, but on a Monday I add 1 mil into that 2 litres. So basically what he was doing is it multiplies for 6-7 days. What he was basically doing was he was keeping the immune system switched on every single week by putting that 1 mil in. And it's like, I haven't lost any birds for over 10 months, whereas he used to lose the odd bird. What he was doing was the exact same as this 15 boys every 3 months, was keeping the immune system switched on for cocci megaback. And so they weren't stressed. And plus 302 stress reducer was relaxing the birds, so anything else that was in that bird wasn't multiplying. You know? So basically, what I'm looking at now is for anybody through the breeding season that have had flies disease in the past, because you've got chicks coming out at different stages, and the last thing you want to do is to be making up a remedy every single week and doing this and doing that. Just simply make up your water and put 1 mil of the remedy in every Monday or every Friday or whatever you choose during the breeding season, and use that in your egg food and use it in your water, in your baths. That remedies keep on going for the whole breeding season. So rather than you have to do every chick, it's going to come in. I've got people that don't put anything over the chick, but because they put it in the drinking water and they've also put it into the egg food, it's getting into the chick. You know, it might take a day a bit longer than putting it over the throat of the chick, but it's just working wonders, you know. So this last 3 weeks has been a bit crazy because I've had so many people phone me up and message me, Colin, I've had that for 2 years, you know. I lost 5 birds last week with that, you know. We don't talk to each other enough, you know. It's all hush hush. The pigeon boys don't talk to each other, and they've had so many problems. The fact that I've sold so many of the remedy and people come back and say, I'll be honest, I did have it, you know. Or they've been phoning up after the show and saying, look, my birds have come down with this. And they've come forward. They've saved themselves a lot of time and hassle with birds. You know, to me, our birds' lives are too cheap. They're too cheap. Oh, we lost another one. Oh, we lost it. There's no need to. What I found out in this short space of time is mind-blowing. The one word is stress, but behind most of it is cocci. So a lot of people, especially British boys, like I'll use Baytril or I'll use this, I'll use that, and before the breeding season, you wipe everything out in the bird, but you haven't got rid of cocci. It will still rear its ugly head through the season. What you've done is you put the bird under stress, you've wiped it out. You can put probiotics and others back in, that's fine and good, but they're not as good as what you think they are, you know. So to me, we've got an alternative that you can basically, any time of year, chicks, anything at all, switch the immune system on naturally. Now, one thing I love about this company is, I mentioned about the viral pneumonia. You can go to a vet, and the vet will come along and he'll jag your beasts for viral pneumonia. But throughout the year, the farmer will still get beasts that will go down with viral pneumonia, and they'll die. And the vet will just say, things happen. What I love about the company I've been with for 20 years, I'll give you an example. I'm talking about the 200 head of cattle. I got a phone call from a chap just outside Cuba, and he says to me, Colin, my dad's used homeopathy down south for the last 7 years. He uses it for orphan sheep, he uses it for BVD and viral pneumonia. And for the last 7 years, he has not had an issue with any of these things at all on the farm. Far cheaper, we're talking £3 a head for viral pneumonia in cattle. And you know what devastates cattle with pneumonia when they get it. So he phoned me up, I says, right, I'm coming up. So I went up and he had 200 head of cattle, and he had the 4 troughs, and we put 10 mils per head into the 4 troughs, and this was the last week in November. He phones me up the first week of January and says, Colin, I've got pneumonia in the cattle. I said, oh, you're joking, Ian. Right, I'm coming up. So I said, isolate the beasts that have got pneumonia. So I got up there, and there's four calves sitting in the corner on a pen. I says, right, 4 calves. He says, what about the rest of them? He says, they're fine, it's just them. I says, wait a minute. He didn't produce his own, he bought cattle in, calves in to rear up. I says, when did you get them? He says, oh, it was maybe the 2nd or 3rd week in December. I said, so they haven't had oh no, they haven't had the remedy, That was done before they came in. So it was 5 mils drench over the mouths of the 4 of them. Within 2 days they're back to normal, and he never had another issue with any of his cattle. But we were prepared to go up there, get a sample from the beast. It might have been pneumonia with something else hanging on to it, specific to that farm. But we were prepared to go up there, get a sample for the beast, get a remedy made up, and give it back to him free of charge. That's what we'll do. We stand by what we do. Now, what I do is somebody phones me up and they'll say, I've got a bird that's gasping. It might be a bullfinch, it might be a greenfinch, it might be, some sort of canary. 9 out of 10 times, it's either infectious bronchitis or mycoplasma, right? So I'll send out a combined respiratory. If they phone up 3 or 4 days later and say, calling that bird still the same, there's a few reasons homeopathy doesn't work. If you don't knock the bottle 30 times on the day of use, you're not activating it. You'd be as well just putting 2 mils of water in. If you get the wrong remedy for the wrong condition, it'll not work. It'll switch the immune system on for that condition, but it won't solve the problem with the condition you've got if it's not the right one. If you've got aniseed, aniseed's the only thing that null and voids homeopathy. So if you've got aniseed in your feed, conditioning seed, or your grit, and you're putting the remedy in the water at the same time, there's no point. Take the aniseed away and do it. You can always put the aniseed back once you've done it, but take the aniseed away so that the homeopathic remedy can get switched on. So again, if you leave it on the shelf, it doesn't work. You've got to do it every 3 months or 4 months, to switch the immune system on to keep it going. So basically, these 15 guys, 4 of them were using all 3. Some of them were using a couple, and they were slightly different. But they all had the same idea of keeping the immune system on. But they all had stress reducer. Because when they were taking birds to shows, rather than a bird coming back for a show and being fluffed up, you wouldn't even know the birds left the shed because it was just relaxed. It's not doped up, but it's just relaxed. It'll still perform. If it's a roller canary, it'll still whistle away. If it's a border, it'll still bounce back and forward, and zebras, budgies. Not an issue. It's not going to dope it up. But these guys, it was quite often coming from the islands, and instead of a 2-day show being a 3 or 4 day show between ferries, they found that by the time it came to breeding with their canaries, they were shot. Their best birds were knackered because they were so stressed out that they weren't getting a chance to breed with them. So the other areas we look at for stress is the environment. Birds in the wild get a brand new environment every 2 minutes. The wind blows, it rains, they fly to different perch. Brand new environment. Birds in the wild have issues with coxswain, but it's rare because they're not enclosed in a space where coxswain is everywhere below them, So they're not having the challenges that we have with birds that are confined in our flights and our cages. We control everything that happens to that bird, whether we like it or not, moving them around, doing different things, trying weird and wonderful things. It's all stressing the birds, You want a stress-free environment there. The beauty of the Clean and Clear Checkmate is it's food safe. It's super concentrated. I'm a Scotsman. I hate the thought of sending water through the post. You imagine me sending this in half its water, I wouldn't be too happy, somebody's selling me water. It can't get any more concentrated than this 1%, and it's like jelly. It just doesn't flow properly. So what you've got is a product that there's 3 different ways to use it. And again, I put a money back guarantee in it, because my attitude is, why would you pay for something and it doesn't work? It's senseless, And I think if there's a lot of companies out there with their products were to put a money back guarantee on it, I don't think they'd be in business for that long. I really don't think they'd be in business for that long. So the 3 different ways people are using that for your environment and taking stress off is, 1, if you've got a mite infestation, 100 mils per litre, spray it everywhere. You don't have to remove the birds. It doesn't have to dry, but don't spray it directly on the birds because it'll take a bit of the sheen off the feather of the birds. Spray it everywhere, leave it. You'll see mites in their eggs going dark green, kills them on contact. You miss a bit, they'll come back eventually. It's not residual. But say for mites, it's phenomenal. Moths, slugs, anything like that at all. It takes the positive ions on their skin and the dirt and grease, and it turns it negative, so they dehydrate. And I say it breaks the cycle between mites and their eggs as well. The second way to use it is as a cleaner. It's a fantastic cleaner. 20 mils per litre, spray it on, hot or cold, wipe it on, leave it 20 minutes, the ground and dirt lifts. It does the same thing. It takes positive ions off of dirt and grease, turns them negative, so you don't scrub anything. It just wipes off. Even the ground and dirt just lifts. I've had people phone me up and say, is this stuff acid? They've sprayed a little bit, and it's gone onto one of these little plastic steps that you get, you know, with the little grids on them. And where it's spilt on it, they've wiped it off and it's like brand new again, you know. So they're sort of like, oh, is it acid? No, it's not. It's just the way it turns the positive ions and dirt and grease negative, so they lift. The other area is, again, you can spray up to 20 mils in the birds as well. Now, the only place you don't spray it on is eggs. Because of the mode of action, it'll take the cuticle off the egg, which opens the pores up for bacteria to get in. So the only place you don't, so you can spray on chicks, not a problem, spray on birds, but not eggs. But a lot of people with chest problems and asthma, and again, since we've had the young bird sickness remedy for pigeons, I've had a lot of pigeon boys come on, and because the remedy's done the job for them, it's like, what else do you do? And so they went on to the top S and the clean and clear, but a lot of guys with pigeon lung who were wearing masks, could only go in even with a mask for 20 minutes, half an hour, and then they were still a wee bit wheezy. And people with asthma, they're still keeping birds today because they're using that as a mist spray. 5 to 10 mils. I always say Scotch boys and Welsh boys will put 5 mils in, everybody else puts 10 mils in. Walking backwards, mist spraying, brings the dust down, brings the virus and bacterial levels down as well, and so they're in there for hours, absolute hours, you know. I got a phone call one time, this was a couple of years back, a woman with a Yorkshire accent, and the first thing she said to me was, I've lost my husband. I went, excuse me? He said he bought that clean and clear checkmate off you, and he used to go into the shed every day for about 20 minutes, half an hour, and that was him for the day. He's got your clean and clear checkmate, and he's been using it, and he's in there for hours. I don't think she's lost her husband, I think I saved the marriage. You know, the fact the boy could go out and do his birds just how he used to do them, it's fantastic, you know. And I love it when I get a phone call for somebody who's still keeping birds because they're using it and they can feel the difference in themselves. You know, it's not just the birds that we control the environment. We control the environment that we walk into. And keeping budgies for years, you know. How many people have chest problems? How many people do you know have chest problems with these birds that are more dusty? You know, we've got to look after our own set of lungs. We only get one set. So to me, that's important. But I say, that's a simple product, and it's super concentrated, it'll last a long time. But that's for your environment, for the bird's environment as well. That will kill coccidiosis in the ground. So as you're cleaning, as you're spraying, you're keeping these things down. Now I say, I don't think you'll ever break the cycle of cocci, because you're bringing feed in, you're bringing millets in, you're bringing all these things in, and cocci will be in these things that you're bringing in, whether you like it or not. So doing that is basically using it as a preventative for cocci, which I found out in the last weeks is the key thing that's given us bother with chicks, with birds going light. The other area I focus on is the top S, is nutrition. Nutrition's got to be 3 things. It's got to be palatable. If it's not palatable and you're eating it, you're stuffed. The bird's under stress. It's got to be nutritious. If you don't got nutrients in it, you're feeding them fillers, a waste of time. It's got to be digestible. You could have the best nutrients possible. If they're locked in and the birds can't digest it, game over. The bird's under stress. It's not going to perform to its best. So what these guys were doing with their food was, instead of buying egg food, none of them bought egg food. Egg food is bakery byproducts. You look at the ingredients of anything, it gives you the most to the least. Egg food, bakery byproducts. What do the bakery use? Wheat. Why not go to the source, wheat? A bag of wheat is far cheaper than a bag of your bakery byproducts, your egg foods. You don't have all the additives, you don't have the preservatives. It's whole, it's natural. When you're feeding natural stuff, it's nature's got everything complete in that, you know. It doesn't miss things out, it's complete. Your wheat's complete. Your egg food has got added stuff in, and what little egg that's in that that's dried, you don't add water to it and all of a sudden it springs to life with nutrients. It's still dead. So you're feeding filler, so you're putting the birds under stress. And not so much the British boys and the Canary boys, unless you're talking Borders and Fifes and so on. We put so much feather on our birds that they're not in tip-top condition because they're not getting the proper nutrients. You give your bird a variety of foods, it looks good, it sounds good, but it'll pick what it likes, not what's good for it. So you want to know what's good for your birds and put that to your birds, knowing it's nutritious, it's palatable, it's digestible. So it's getting more nutrients in. Spinach, phenomenal, you know. Broccoli, all these things are so cheap. Eggs, all 15 guys used eggs. 13 of them boiled them. One boy fried himself eggs every morning, so he fried up a couple of eggs for the birds and mixed it in. And another boy scrambled it. But it was eggs. And you've heard me say in this meeting before, every single bird that lays an egg in the world, the chick is always bigger than the yolk. So you take the nutrients in a yolk that a few cells on a germinal disc can multiply, once fertilised, absorb that yolk through the blood vessels, and the chick is bigger than the yolk. It's phenomenal nutrients that have taken it that distance. So you look at the white, okay? You look at the white. The white isn't used in the production of chick. The white is there to hold that in the centre, because if that yolk goes to the side, bacteria will be attracted to that nutrients. So it's there for gas exchange at the air sac end and also to hold it in the middle. There's the essential and non-essential amino acids in that white added to that yolk is phenomenal. So to feed your birds so they can feed the chicks all these nutrients, it's amazing, you know. How many people have used egg food and half it's wasted? You know, you're throwing out more than what the birds are eating. You get wheat, soak it for 2 days, you start the germination process. Any seed at all, you start the germination process, it's better nutrients, far better nutrients. So things like wheat, your egg, groats and oats is fine, but they're too starchy. Put some in, but not too much, or else you put too much fat in the bird. And when the bird's being reared, it's a survival mode they go into. They want to get these birds out, because in the wild, if you sit in that nest for too long, you're going to get eaten by something. So the parents want these birds to come out as quick as possible. That's why they're constantly feeding them, and they move on to insects, because the amino acids is phenomenal in insects, and that's why the growth rate accelerates. What the top S does, there's pre and probiotics out there. Now, it's over 10 years ago since a good friend of mine, the guy's a multi-millionaire, a bit of a recluse, he's in his 80s now, he phoned me up and says, Colin, I've taken every pre and probiotic on the market, sent it across to Switzerland for testing. That's right, how did mine get on? He says, well, they had to test yours twice. He says, right. He says, every pre and probiotic, this is where I've got the knowledge from about pre and probiotics. Every pre and probiotic that was on the market back then was active in the gut with one application for 3 to 4 hours, and then it resorted back to its normal flora and fauna. He says, yours was active in the gut for 7 to 8 hours. It was so far ahead of the rest of them, they wanted to check it twice, just in case they'd made a mistake. I don't put any bacteria into the birds. This is a dead yeast plus a couple of enzymes. And what it does is, just a light dusting like pepper put on the food, goes into the system, and it sets the gut up with the environment so billions of good bacteria multiply. So even if you're feeding rubbish food, you'll still see a big difference in the birds. The droppings will go lighter in colour, drier, a little bit less, and no smell. Birds of all varieties are leaving the nest 3 to 5 days early, far better feathered, and you have to ring them 2 days earlier, else you'll not get a ring on them. You know, and especially British birds, the last thing you want is unrung British birds flying about in your aviaries. You know, I have a thing on it saying we take no responsibility for unrung birds. Every year I still get phone calls from the British boys. I couldn't get rings on my greenfinches or my red poles or my bullies. You read the label? Aye, but I didn't believe it. What's the point of putting it on if they don't believe it, you know? But that's just a fact. Again, having the young bird sickness remedy, the pigeon boys, what else do you do? They came onto the top S, and what I love about the pigeon boys is they check their dropping boards every day, and they can tell you the condition of the bird with the dropping boards. We in the poultry industry are the same. You go in, whether it's a caged unit at a time or it's, you know, on the floor, We'd look at the drop-ins, we'd look at the water consumption, we'd smell the place, you know, how the bird's looking. That's how we told how the health of the bird was, with the drop-ins. It's the main thing it tells you. And one thing that really gets me with sometimes with the way we keep our birds is, we've got them in deep litter and all the rest. How can we see every day what the drop-ins look like? You know, to me there should be one area in your shed with perches on in one of your flights that you can see the drop-ins every day, so you can tell the health of the birds by the drop-ins. You know, and all too often we don't, because okay, the birds are breeding, you don't want to disturb them much, but you need to keep an eye on the drop-ins every day and the water consumption. Again, that's hard with budgies because they don't drink that much, you know. So the top S, they say, sets the gut up so billions of good bacteria multiply, so even rubbish food, all the nutrients are stripped, and you'll see the same effect. I've got a lot of dogs and cats that have got skin conditions, and they're paying silly money a month on steroids because of these skin conditions and not getting any better. They put that on, it's just a light dust and light pepper on their food in the morning. And before the end of the month, they're off all the steroids, they're looking absolutely fantastic, and when they go to the back end, they're not scary. So, you know, every animal and bird that touches, I've got horses, goats, all sorts with skin conditions and whatnot, issues on it, and it just transforms them because it sets the gut up with these billions of good bacteria. See, it's not rocket science, less is more. The guy that gave me the bird that died of young bird sickness, he went on to it, and he won his first, down at Blackpool there, he won his first, and he got his rosettes and trophy and that, you know, and his birds are looking fantastic. And he phoned me up the other day and says, Colin, I'm needing more top S. He bought a 1.5 kilo, and that should have done him the year. He said, oh, I like to see it on it, you know. Oh, less is more. You don't have to put that much on it. You can't overdose, but it gets into the system. And I say, he's just never looked back. And everybody that's gone onto it just goes nuts. But these boys, pigeon boys have been using it for years, but they don't talk to each other, you know. And that's a sad thing, especially when there's so much disease going around, you know. Some people, I get a lot of phone calls from people who buy birds from certain people, all varieties of birds. They get the bird back, and within a couple of days or a week, it crashes. And the bird doesn't perform, or it dies, and they're not getting anything out of the bird. Because the people had it before, the regime they've had it on, they're on a high almost. And when you buy it and bring it home, it's under stress. But not only that, it crashes because you're not maintaining it. And so the bird's good for nothing. What you can do with the homeopathic remedies, excuse me, you can switch the immune system on. So if you've got this on your birds, and you do all the birds at the same time, because the 2 mils will cover all your birds. So when you sell a bird, the immune system will be up there, and depending on whether it's 3 months, 6 months, it will slowly decline. So the bird's not going to crash, and it'll give the bird time to acclimatise to someone else's place and get used to the bacteria that's there as well, without being the pressure of having that bacteria or coming off a high with the various products that are out there. There's so many products out there, and it's quite scary. And year after year, there's new products coming to market, and they claim this, claim that. These 15 boys prove to me that keep it simple, keep it fresh, keep it natural. Whole foods are complete foods. Manufactured foods are manufactured. They're not whole, they're not complete. Quite often, they're fillers, you know. So if you can keep it as simple as possible. How many times have I had people coming into the hobby and they'll say, oh, I've had a couple of great breeding seasons, I'm doing really well, you know, and they are doing well. And all of a sudden they meet people who are been in it for a long time, and expert, oh, you need to try this, you need to try that. And all of a sudden the results go downhill, you know. If they went back to how it was, you know, they get the results again. But the bottom line is, regardless of what type of birds you're keeping, we select them, we're controlling them. Quite often we're looking for shape, for size, for feathering. It's not natural. So these birds are under stress because of what we've put on them. We need to make sure that we get every other area right. And again, bringing the birds in and out of cycle is key. Birds are stimulated by 3 main things. And 2 out of 3 will stimulate and still bring them in. But if you want tip-top breeding results, the birds are stimulated by light. They're stimulated by their own body weight, and they're stimulated by the availability of food. So one, the increase in light coincides with the increase in food. We control the environment, If you go past 14 hours light, you overstimulate the birds, they'll come in and out of cycle. You know, cocks will be fertile, infertile. Canary boys get it, you know, the British boys get it, they're sitting on eggs and all of a sudden they come off eggs. They've overstimulated the birds. An overweight bird will breed, but it won't breed as well as a bird that comes into its fighting weight, its breeding weight. And again, what I learned over the years was things like hemp. Hemp is phenomenal nutrients, phenomenal amino acids that can put weight on a bird quickly, but it says to the bird, hey, there's availability of food for my chicks, and it brings it into condition. The increase in body weight we're using it brings it into condition as well. But the lighting's key. But I've deliberately kept my birds back, and I've leaned them back, but then I've just gradually started to increase hemp and put a little bit. I just feed wheat and millet, white millet. I don't do mixed millets, I don't do mixed seeds. I'm a Scotsman, I hate the thought of spending 20% VAT on somebody mixing something up. If you buy straights, you know exactly what the birds are eating. I haven't used plain canary in over 5 years because it's a rubbish seed. You try germinate plain canary, you're lucky if you get 20%. The nutrients aren't there. Whereas if you look at the price of that compared to the price of wheat, less than £10 for 25 kilos, and you're getting the germination over 2 days and the super nutrients. Phenomenal, you know. Why would you feed a dead seed when you can feed something that's got super nutrients in it? So, you know, it's all about bringing your birds in and out of seasons, you know. And quite often, I've been speaking to a lot of people that have been in it for years, border canaries, fife fancies, pudgy people, and they wonder why for years they haven't had good results. And when you hear the lighting programs, you hear your feeding programs, the birds are overweight, it's scary, you know, absolutely scary. We talk about nutrition. People talk about protein. You do not make protein from protein. You make protein from amino acids, essential and non-essential amino acids. Non-essential, the animal bird can make it themselves. Essential amino acids are ones they can't make. You want to get that into them. The biggest bodybuilders in the world, gorillas, do they go for the protein shakes or that? It's all plant-based amino acids that build these bodies. Cows in the field, it's grass, builds these bodies. So what we're looking at with our birds is, forget the word protein, think amino acids. You want to get as much good nutrients into them as possible. Spinach, phenomenal. I feed loads of spinach and people come in and see it, it's like, why'd you put so much in? Well, they'll get skittery. Or if you introduce it all of a sudden, yeah, it'll be too much, but you gradually introduce that. There's enough vitamin K in one leaf to do us half a daily dose in one leaf. So how much are the nutrients in that to a bird? It's going to be fantastic, you know, if one leaf's enough for half our daily dose of vitamin K, you know. People talk about calcium. People phone me up and they'll say, Colin, I'm not getting any fertile eggs. My cocks aren't filling. There's two questions I ask them. One, how many hours of light you got your birds on? Usually 14 hours and beyond, they're overstimulating the birds and the cocks will come in and out of cycle. Second question is, are you using liquid calcium? And quite often, how do you know that? It says you've turned all your cock birds sterile. I always say, don't put anything in the water that is going to stop that bird drinking. Because if you stop that bird drinking as much as what it would because you've added something to the water, you've put that bird under stress and dehydration. Simple as that. So if you're putting something in the water, put a second drink in beside it and give it a choice. But liquid calcium, you put in the water, they have no choice but drink it. And it'll turn your cock bird sterile, and it'll put too much calcium in the hen, and the hen will excrete a lot out if it doesn't need it. But when that egg comes down and gets fertilised, it gets the first white on it, gets the second white on it, it gets the shell on it. In the shell gland, if there's too much calcium there, the shell will be slightly thicker. So if you've got a weak chick at all, pipping out, it won't pip out properly. Or if it does pip out, it's going to be knackered by the time it pips itself out because it's too much calcium. A bird will take every ounce of calcium out of its bones to put a shell around an egg before it doesn't lay. It's as simple as that. And if you're feeding whole, fresh nutrients, greens, they're going to get plenty of nutrients to refill their calcium. Not an issue. Not an issue at all. If you have any questions, I don't know if you want to have a wee cup of tea or coffee or something like that, and then come back with any questions. Don't forget your raffle tickets because there's some brilliant prizes in it. Thank you.
Well, gentlemen,